Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. If you don't know, now you know. My name's Mr. Hecker, and my beautiful guest I have here today, Cody. How are you, bro?
Amazing, brother.
Give us a fist pump for the day. Thanks for joining us. It's Monday morning here as well. So, at the If You Don't Know, Now You Know podcast, man, I like to start off my day with a bit of gratitude. So, what's 3 things you're grateful for in this present moment right now?
Number 1, the opportunity to be able to share with your audience.
Yep.
Number 2, definitely be my partner Jackie for everything that she does for me. And then number 3, just all of the growth that's occurred over the kind of the last 12 months for me. So it's been an amazing 12 months and it's going even further up. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to, because I'm going to ask you about that too. So I was glad you brought that up, because I'm like, oh, I got a few questions to ask today. But just so we can, get the people out there a little bit of understanding, what are you doing like presently right now? Like, what's your position right now? Give us a little bit of a breakdown and we'll dive into that a little bit deeper as well.
Yeah. So I focus on leadership coaching, and the way that I do that differently is by understanding people's epigenetic expression, to understand how their brain works differently for other people. So kind of over the last 10 years, I've coached over 4,000 coaches, federal members of parliament from both parties, a couple of world champion athletes, and heaps of different people in that context, to be able to just allow them to create more flow in their life through leading themselves and leading other people as well. So
yeah. What was it? An
epigenetic expressions.
Okay, yeah, because Jackie asked me about that, and I said, no, I don't know what that is. So please tell me what this is.
So epigenetic expression is basically how our genes are expressing themselves right now. And we can basically go through a test to determine, okay, cool, well, if my fingernails have striations on them, then that means something.
Yep.
It means that certain genes are being expressed based on our relation to the environment, and that means that certain things are going to play out in terms of what we need in a nutritional context, on an exercise context, in a mindset context, comparative to other people. So every single person is a complete individual, and we can basically get the blueprint of each individual person based on learning their epigenetic expression. So
I like this. This sounds good. I've never heard of this before. I had a little bit of a brief look at it, like when Jackie told me about it, I was like, I started doing it, but I was like, actually, no, I've stopped, because I was going to ask you that, like, I didn't want to take any questions. How long have you been doing that for?
About 3.5 years is when I first started it. Basically what happened was I was doing some business coaching for PTs at the time, and I was also on the board for Sports Nutrition Australia, and this guy says, oh, you should come along to this event, you're learning about epigenetic expressions and stuff, it's going to be great for nutrition, all these different things. And I'm like, I'm moving away from sports nutrition right now, so I'm not really interested. And he said this one thing, he goes, it was an afterthought for me. I was like, oh, is there going to be people there that I could network with and grow my business? And he's like, I'm going to challenge you, because he knew how my brain worked already.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm going to challenge you to see how many people you can get as prospects at this event. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I can do that, because he understood that my brain was all about challenge, and if he challenged me, then I'd do it.
Call you forwards.
Yeah. So that was how I first learnt about it, and from there it just changed everything. It changed the complete direction of my business and everything.
I like that. Who's probably the most interesting person you work with, and why? Like, in that aspect, if you can think of someone.
Probably.
You don't have to name them, but even maybe just like explain what it was like, or any experiences that you had with them. And
yeah, I think the funniest polarity one was when I was working with 2 different federal members of parliament at the same time, but on different parties.
Okay, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, so we'd be talking, and they would know each other and stuff, and interact about the things that we're talking about and things like that. So it was very interesting just to see the dynamic of like different parties, different views, and all of these different things, and working with them in a different capacity. So that was a very interesting dynamic, because I was working with them at the same time. So
okay, I want to wind it back a little bit as well. Like, before you got into all of this, like, where did your career start? Like, you leave school. Actually, first of all, where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Stanthorpe, which is about 2.5, 3 hours inland on the border of Queensland and New South Wales.
Yep.
So country boy. There's about 7,000 people in Stanthorpe.
Yes, it's not big, that place. It's small.
It's very small. Very small and cold.
Yeah. So you moved from there, go to the Gold Coast?
I moved to Brisbane first. So I in grade 12, I had a girlfriend in Brisbane because her dad lived in Stanthorpe and her mum lived in Brisbane. So she came down, and the day school finished, I moved to Brisbane. I was like, fuck, I'm out of here.
Done.
I'm out of the country fucking life. So I moved to Brisbane, started working in bars and managed bars for a few years. And the funny thing was I worked in bars because I didn't really like... I was so introverted that I didn't want to talk to people, so I had to get a job where people would talk to me.
Yeah.
So I'd be behind the bar just serving people and things like that. I'd often get drunk behind the bar, but that's another thing. And I would do it just so that I had to engage and interact with people because it just wasn't natural to me. Yeah. So from there I moved into PT, became a PT, and it was the same thing. Like I didn't really want to talk to people, but I had to talk to people one-on-one because I was so introverted. And that was my first entry into business, and from there I went into business coaching for PTs and then mindset and leadership from there. So
yeah, ooh, so that's a nice, interesting story. So going from like, I guess, like the PT lifestyle, like how did you go, or even going from working in bars into PT, like what happened there? Like was there a moment or a day like where you're like, look, I don't want to work in a bar anymore, I'm going to go be a PT, or was it just like a gradual thing that slowly phased out?
When I made this shift from working in bars, I was still working in bars for the first 6 months that I was a PT, and because I just didn't have enough clients and things like that, and I was getting to the point where it was a transition point, and I didn't make the jump because I still like working in bars, and I kind of get, as I said, drunk behind the bar a lot, so it was like just going out but getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So there was this one time that I drank too much and got fired from the bar and never went back. So
okay.
That happened actually a couple of times in bars as well.
That's a common thing.
Yeah.
I've seen heaps of people do that. Like guys I know that worked in bars, and girls as well. They just get written off.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think you meant to do that, hey? Or like they get written off, and then like, yeah, they just goes crazy, and you know it's just not a good sign for them when the bartender's drunker than the people buying the drinks. So that's probably not a good look. But yeah, I can understand why people would lose their jobs. Yeah,
definitely. So that was the transition from working in a bar to PT, and then transitioning to having my business completely online. And a few years ago, I decided to be able to just move it online, to be able to move to the Gold Coast, and I made that shift. And it was much more conscious at that time to be able to just start to go, okay, cool, I want to actually get to this point. I'm just going to basically build my business to a point and then just cut off all in-person training and move to the Gold Coast, basically. So that happened a few years ago, and then that was an interesting experience at the same time because at that point I was more successful than I'd ever been. I was making more money than I'd ever been. I was presenting at like Filex, the fitness industry convention in Sydney and things, where all of these people from around the world would come and speak at, and had this experience where I was just driving down the Gold Coast Highway and at Tugun, and I was driving down the Gold Coast Highway and I pull up to this set of traffic lights and I have like tears streaming down my face, and I thought in that moment, if I just drove out into traffic, like I could get taken out by a truck and my life would be over, but it wouldn't look like a suicide. So that was very much a bottoming out point for me, and that was the core shift into more of a mindset and leadership space, because I still had ties to the fitness industry then, and that was like a very pivotal moment for me to be able to create that shift, and just became obsessed with mindset and leadership and self-leadership and all these different components, and how we can actually start to understand what creates depression, even on an epigenetic level for different people as well, because different people will have epigenetic expressions show up in a different way. So that means that depression will show up in a different way for them. So like when I was in it, I had no idea that that was what it was going to be all about. And then in hindsight, just looking back, I could see all of the things that were puzzle pieces that were coming together and creating that shift for me to be able to create basically who I am today.
So you reached a like critical low point in your life where you're like, look, you know, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to take my life and make it look like an accident. What was it like? What was going through your head? Do you remember what was going on in your life at that time that really like pushed you to the brink where you're like, okay, like I've had enough? Like run us through what was going on. Yeah,
there was three core things with it. My mum had died about 6.5, 7 years earlier, and I hadn't felt any of the grief around that. I had just had a relationship breakup that ended. Like I had this experience where like my mum was my greatest advocate. She was the greatest supporter that I had, and then she died, and then I found a partner eventually that kind of did the same thing. I felt like I was like creating things again with ease, all of these things, and then out of the blue we broke up, and that was quite crushing. And then I also had this experience where, even though I was more successful than I'd ever been, I hadn't actually done my tax for 7 years since my mum died. So I had a lot of shame around that, and I had crippling like anxiety around having to pay that back. I'm even searching things online to go, well, if I kill myself, will my family have to pay my tax debt and things like that? Because I'm just like, this is just not working. Like, there's no way out of this. I just feel hopeless. I feel like a burden on my family, on society. I just feel like I'm all alone in all of this. And what that really created was just this point of decision to be able to make that shift. So,
Have you ever felt like that again since that day?
not to that level. Like, we all go through periods of ups and downs throughout our life, and there are always periods where you go through those downs, and it's never been to that depth.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, like after that day, what like was there? Did you decide to take action after that? And I guess what does that look like for you? Like you've hit some lows, because I know after every low I've hit, I'm like, it's a real boot in the ass. I'm like, shit, man, I gotta fucking get it together.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just like go time.
yeah. Well, the funny thing was I didn't get help after that.
Okay.
So it's just like, all right, this is the experience, and I'm like, fuck, I really, really need help. And it was like a few weeks later that I finally actually got it. Like, I'd moved to the Gold Coast, and I moved in with these people, and then they asked me to move out. It just wasn't working out because I was depressed. And at that point when they asked me to move out, I was just like, right, now it has to change. Now, like, I've fucking uprooted my entire life. I've literally just settled in, and now I have to fucking do it all again. And I had that conversation. I went back to my room and just started Googling psychologists to book in an appointment as soon as possible. So,
I love it. So yeah, I feel like as males too, we tend to be a little bit stubborn when it's like, okay, no, all good, it'll blow over.
Yeah.
But it's like a gentle wave that just goes, or just picks back up and just takes you away again.
Yeah.
And we just tend to, oh no, it's all good. Like,
Yeah.
And you probably had that feeling like it'll go away, and then you got kicked out.
Yeah.
Or whatever happened there, and then it all just comes back up again. It doesn't run. You can't hide from it.
Yeah.
And it's never going to go away.
yeah. And that was the thing. It was the last thing that I wanted to do. Like, I knew I needed to get help, and I was just like, fuck that. That's the last thing that I wanted to do. I know I need to do it, and at the same time, I'm just like, it'll blow over. It'll be fine. I can get through this.
It's probably the thing that you needed the most,
Yeah.
but you're avoiding it. It's hard, eh? And it's hard to accept. Like, even like I was speaking to that, like when there was a time in my life where I needed help as well, and I had partners, and it was fucking relationships over everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're like, you just need to help. I'm like, no, I got it. It's all good. It's all good. Like,
Yeah.
I got this. It's sorted. But in hindsight, I just had to just drop all the bullshit and be like,
Yeah.
okay, hit a critical low.
Yeah.
There's nothing more. There's no better learning curve than hitting a critical low, I don't think.
That's it.
Although it's not the thing that you want at the time, and it's probably not the ideal way to learn
Yeah.
a lesson. But hey, look, when it does happen, it's a stiff lesson that you should. Yeah, most people learn from it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's it? Like, obviously that was a shit of time in your life.
Yeah.
Life right now, rate it compared to that.
I think that I would have been like a 1 or 2 out of 10 then, and now, like, one of the core things when our life shifts as well is our perspective shifts. So what would have been a 10 at that time would, like, I'm well past that now. It'd be like 14, 15, because it's like my mind has shifted so much and my paradigms have shifted so much that, like, even a 10 at that point, I didn't even comprehend what my life would be like right now. I wouldn't comprehend all of the people that I've worked with, all the people that I've impacted, the money that I earn, all of these different things, the partner that I have. Like, it's just incomprehensible. So it's like well beyond what I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
So
What makes it better now? Give me a list. I want to know why now is better.
the core essence that I worked out in hindsight was the understanding that although I had like a lot of the trappings of success, I had the laptop lifestyle, I was presenting around the country, all of these different things, I had the trappings of success, but I just wasn't fulfilled. And fulfillment shows up differently for each person based on the epigenetic expression. So I understood that I need challenge in my life. I need all of these things. I need all of these different biological drivers of, for me, adrenaline and testosterone to be able to have this lit up life. Otherwise, it just becomes draining for me. So when I understood what actually fulfilled me, then everything shifted. So fulfillment for me comes in a different flavor comparative to my partner, Jackie. And as soon as I understand that, then we can actually work out how it can create a relationship that has both of our needs fulfilled in that context. So
yeah, that's really interesting because I've realized, like, I don't haven't dived into this at all, but I know I need constant stimulation of stuff, and I know that, not that I need heaps of things, but if it's not exciting me, it's not for me.
Yeah.
It just, there's no way I can be even remotely interested in it. I just will like, see ya, bye. But that's the struggle I've faced with now, or not so much. I kind of understand it a little bit more, but I know you would on another level.
Yeah.
Where whatever I am doing, I'm making sure that, not that it's like, not a constant kind of refresh, but I'm making sure there's a general stimulation and growth in there, because if it's not growing, I just can't be there. And I realize that even like in a lot of my careers that I've had, I would go into a job or, construction industry, and then I would work it up and I would end up being the boss there.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, you know what, fuck, this is shit. This is shit.
Yeah.
And I'll go get another job at another place.
Yeah.
And just the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'll just go, whoop, to the top. And it was just like a mad race for me to take his seat.
Yeah.
And then once that was there, I was like, yeah, this sucks. And I don't know why that is, but I know that's something that that's why I end up working for myself.
Yeah.
Because it's like I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
There was no excitement in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what that is, but if that is something in my epigenic creation, that's probably where that comes from. But yeah, I've really picked that in the last like 2 years. And once I understood that, and accepted that that's kind of how I am, and that's kind of how my flow is, if it's not stimulating, and even in relationships as well.
Yeah.
And that was kind of everywhere. And if it's not like that, and I haven't got a partner or relationship that's like wants to like get up and go and be exciting and be energetic and grow together, I just can't do it. Yeah. It's hard.
It is.
It's hard.
Are you more of a morning person?
Fuck yeah, I'll get up at 4 o'clock. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. So when we're looking at people's epigenetic expression, there's different things that we look at. We break it down into kind of 6 different categories to start off with, which I'll run through in a second. And just by people, how they interact and engage in their skeleton, we can determine very much where they sit.
Yeah.
So the first, I'll run through each of them. So the activator, which is me, which is driven by adrenaline and testosterone. So generally shorter in stature, driven by the hormone ACTH, which creates the adrenaline and testosterone. The connector, which is driven by oxytocin, so it's about connection. They need a lot of variety. They need some challenge as well. And then we've got the guardian, which is driven by prolactin, which is nurturing. Then we've got the diplomat, which is driven by serotonin, so it's more about how they feel, seeking pleasure, and more than 70% of serotonin is in the gut. Then we've got sensors, which is driven by vasopressin, which is all about mineral balance, and then crusaders, which are driven by dopamine, which is all about achievement. So even based on what you've said, we can kind of work out where you kind of sit as part of that. So it means that we understand how your brain works as well, and understands why working for someone else is generally not optimal for you. And you'll also go through, even in your own work, different cycles of motivation, and they're generally shorter than other people because you need so much more stimulus.
Yeah.
So if you create your work being aligned with that, then it lights you up even more, rather than going, right, I've got to focus on this narrow thing for this long period of time of the next 12 months or 18 months or 2 years, 5-year plans. It's just like, that sounds okay, but I just want to have fun right now. And I just want to set this month and like fucking light this up. And then other things down the track, those things will come into place. But right now I just need to be feeling, enjoying it, and having the variety and the stimulus throughout all of that. Does that resonate?
Yep, 100%. I'm like laughing. I'm like, read my mind. Yeah, that's me. That's definitely me. I'm like, look, I do like long-term planning as well, but I'm like, you know what? I like the long game. I love it. But I'm like, if I can't be here right now, enjoy the fuck out of whatever I'm doing, like right now, it's just not for me.
Yeah. It's got to be fun. That's one of the core words for you. If it's not fun, then it just gets boring, and then it's just like,
Yeah.
And the core thing is, a lot of times you'll become quite successful in things because you enroll so many other people in visions and things like that, which allows people to move forward. But then if it's not fun, then you have to find a way to make it fun for yourself.
Yeah, if I go to a room and it's just shit and it's boring, I'm like, you know what, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
But if it is, I'll make it fun.
Yeah.
I'll make it fun. And then, you know what, you're right, you're exactly right. And people generally are drawn to what I do because they're like, he looks like he's having a good time.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm like, hey, can you come do this with me? I just have a good time. And then people are like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about where you sit being like the ultimate enroller in things. It's like, well, we're going to go and do this thing and it's going to be fun. It's going to be lit up. It's going to be enjoyable for us. We're going to connect, all of these different things. And it just means that people just follow you. They're magnetized towards you. So
that's definitely, I do get that.
Yeah.
People, they're like, you got really good energy. I want to be around you.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. It's making a lot, and it would make so much more sense to understand, especially being in a relationship as well. And I feel like you and Jackie would have really married this in well, and had to go through this. So shout out to Jackie too.
Yeah.
She seems like a very organised lady as well. She seems organised.
She cleans up all of my messes because part of my thing is challenge and like bucking shit up all the time.
Yeah.
So she's behind the scenes doing all of basically the work because she can multitask much better than I can. I can be seen at the front, all of these different things, and leading in a completely different way, and she becomes behind the scenes and runs everything behind the scenes to support in that way because how her brain works, it can multitask differently to other people. And then
I can't multitask for shit. People, like, when I'm on the phone, like, sometimes I'll like reply to a message. They're like, "You're on your phone, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yep," because I just go silent. I'm just like, one thing, that's it.
Yeah. And when we look at the context of relationships, it means that you can determine what you're going to fight about as well as soon as you know yours and your partner's epigenetic expression.
Okay.
So
I might have to get some of these notes out. That'd be nice.
So when I first started dating Jackie, I was like, okay, I know the things that we're going to fight about because I have like a future-based frame of reference a lot more than she does. So she's very much in the present as well. I've got like a side dish of that. And that just means that I'm focused on the vision and creating what we're creating in the business. And she's just like, I just want to be present. I just want to be felt. I just want to go through all of these different things. And she's different in that way. And when we understand that, basically what happens is she listens differently to me. And what we find in communication is conflict is created when what is said is not what is heard. So if we understand how other people listen, then we can actually communicate how they listen. And what that creates is this capacity to be able to get into flow with people and create that deep sense of connection, because we've all had that experience where we've been in a relationship where it's just been easy. It's just been connected. So part of that, as soon as we understand the other person and their biology, we can actually create more experiences like that rather than the inverse of the tension and the fighting all the time.
Yeah. I'm loving this. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna dive into this deeper, because I like, even I'm like thinking about, like, reminds me of like the 5 love languages and knowing each other stuff. That, and when I first knew about that, it was way too late. I'd fucked up a few relationships.
I had to, don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm like, I fucked up a few relationships. I'm like, if only someone taught me that at school.
Yeah.
Or just like briefly explained it, I'd be like, I would have just saved a whole lot of dramas, bullshit, and me not knowing on how, I guess, to not even operate a relationship, like even just have a go at it.
Yeah.
Like, or how to be in someone else's space or compliment, and how to be them around them, like.
Yeah.
And then just like what you're saying now is like, this is just another level. This is just like the turning up the volume, which is like exciting, because just like, I'm just thinking, like, we just had a walk on the weekend, like with our men's medicine, stuff like that. And the biggest thing is relationships.
Yeah.
People and how to be in other people's spaces is so important. And that's why when you're talking what you're talking, I'm like, this is such good value, because especially men don't know how to be in the other people's spaces, whether it's female or male as well. They don't know how to really marry in and be around other people for long, extended periods of time, for short periods of time, where there's just like a social aspect. Yeah, really good. But long periods, no, not so great. And I feel like that's a lot of where a lot of men's depression comes from. Falling out relationships, partners, fathers, mothers, children, especially. And it's like, so that what you're talking about now is really important. Understanding who you're around and the other person is, I'm like, oh, I got so many questions. Do you have like a specific name, like, for your epigenetic reading, or is it like, do you just understand it? Like, because do you know what a chronotype is?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like a body clock, internal body clock kind of thing.
Yeah, so based on your epigenetic expression, we call it chronobiology. So it's the biology of your circadian rhythms, which play out on a day-by-day basis as well as an annual basis.
Yep.
So what that means is there will be certain times that are better for me to be able to sell comparative to someone else. So we can understand exactly what is optimal in terms of exercise, food, work, genius, all of these different things, sleep, based on people's chronobiology. And then that plays out based on what they're looking at creating, and that plays out also based on your immune systems throughout the year. So in the 3rd week of April every year, I'm meant to rest because that's when my immune system is weakest, and I'm most likely to get sick. And this year, 100% got sick. So why? Because I went to Bali to do a retreat, and I was sick the first 2 days of the retreat, which is the last couple of days of the thing. So just flying over there just put my immune system over the edge, and then I was completely good after that. So
Ooh. I'm loving this because I like even for me, like I know I've started to slowly understand where my time lies. Like for me, most is productive is in the morning. Brain stuff's in the morning from 4 o'clock or 5. Like I train in the morning, fast, which I don't like want to eat until about 9, 10 o'clock, which is some cardio, nothing weights. And then from there, all my like active brain functional stuff that my highest brain power is till about 10, 11. After that, it's just like just do not the dumb things, but just like maybe the phone calls and like maybe the emails that aren't like so like brain activated stuff. Like all my creative shit's in the start of the thing by the end of the night, and then I train hard in the afternoon, like physical training. Something real physical to time me out before I go to bed. And then I like about 6 hours sleep. 6 hours is sweet for me. And then if I oversleep, it's too much. Like 8 hours is not good for me. I feel like shit in the morning. I feel slow or sluggish. I'm like, this isn't good. It's a hard workout at night time, cardio in the morning, and that's how that for me. That's been working. And I got that just off my chronotype. I did like a little tests and thing. Like I started reading the book, The Right Time to Do Anything.
And that's the thing. Most people are doing the right things just at the wrong time.
I realised it too. I used to come home, like when I was had like the construction business, I would come home and try doing my quotes at night time. At night time, and I would be up until like 10, 11, 12, quoting jobs and going through all the paperwork. As where I swapped it, I went to bed at 8:30 and then I woke up at 3. And then worked through, and from about 3:30 onwards through to about 7 o'clock until I had to get in the car. I would smash it. So much more work in it, and not minimal mistakes. As where I'd be making mistakes, pricing jobs wrong. I just realized I was like, what the hell? There's a few times when I first started doing it, I'd wake up in the morning and do my work for like 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. I would get more done in that 2.5, 3 hours than what I would do when I used to stay up from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon to about 11 o'clock at night. I was like, what the fuck's going on?
Every person will have a specific hour throughout the day where they'll be able to get like 2 or 3 times more done in that 1 hour than any other hour throughout the day. So finding that out becomes essential to actually just increase your productivity, but also the profitability of the things that you're doing as well, because most people are looking to become more productive when the reality is you just want to be more profitable with all the actions that you're taking, so you can actually just get better results from the things that you're doing as well. So
I love it. That's for me. I feel like it's a morning time. There's a space there somewhere where I turn my phone off and I just go for it. And that's the first thing I do in the morning. I switch off everything, and then I go. I usually bust out most of my work then, so it's good. Well, what's your time? Like, do you have a certain period of time where you're most productive?
So generally for my mental work, the morning is best, generally between 8 and 11. And then the best time for me for the most productivity is between 5 and 6 p.m. as well. So I can either train then, because that's my number one priority, because each person will have a different priority, whether it's their environment, whether it's their mindset, whether it's their food. Mine's fitness. So if I exercise, then it creates a release of the adrenaline and testosterone in my system. So training between 5 and 6 is optimal for me. Or if I'm doing lots of work at that time, then I get a lot more done during that time as well. So it's just determining what's more important for that day.
Okay. Any other, like, what other changes have you made to your lifestyle, like, since you've been able to know that, like, changing things around?
It's been like a lot of different things of just understanding like why I do certain things as well. So like a lot of the times, like when I'm coaching people, I'm very direct and confrontational with people, and that's specifically set up with the way that my brain works. And I didn't really know that. It's just like people are like, you're too full on in coaching. Like a lot of people would be like, it's a little bit much. So what that allowed me to do is just have ultimate permission to actually be who I am, my core essence, to be able to just start to be that, because that's actually what's needed of me. So most people unknowingly try and fit in to be normal, and they hide what their greatest gifts are. They're shaming them because society says you need to fit into this tiny little box over here. And really, that's what they actually are needed to do in this lifetime. It's what they're required to do.
Yeah, fuck the box, that's all I say. Fuck the box. Don't try to squash me in the box. I ain't going in there. Many people have tried to put me in a box many times. They're like, just be a little bit more, bit less.
Yeah.
I'm like, just because you can't do that,
Yeah.
I don't doesn't mean I have to be in a little box.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. I love that. Don't ever be in a box. And that, so many people love to, I guess, see someone doing something, especially in Australia. Like, I don't know, you're being too much.
Yeah.
Just put it down, like slow down, be less.
Yeah.
Like, nah, can't do that. So big kudos there, because
Yeah.
that was me for so many years as well. Like, I didn't know how to be.
Yeah.
I thought I was weird, but I'm not weird. Everyone else is just boring.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
I'm
like
like, you know, I used to be, am I weird? And I'm like, nah, everyone else is just boring.
Yeah.
And once you really truly understand that, you're like, you know what? You get to play in your full lane.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, you don't have to be in this little blue box. You just, the lanes open up and you can be who you need to be.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that plays out as well is your biology creates your beliefs. So there'll be specific things that come up in terms of people's core wounds based on the epigenetic expression. And one of the differences between, I guess, me and you, it's similar, but just a different flavor of it, would be one of the core things that comes up for me is don't be a show-off, whereas yours would be more around being too much.
Yeah.
So it's just a slight different flavor of it, but the wording of it generally just activates us slightly differently. And as soon as we know that, we go, oh, okay, cool, that's one of my biological things based on what my biology creates, and that's creating the beliefs, so I can understand that that's where the growth is, because it's like, okay, cool, if I'm feeling I need to suppress myself, so it's suppression for me, or being, for you would be more putting on, you can be the ultimate like chameleon. You can be who you need to be in an instance. The limitation is then that creates a losing of your own identity, because then you're just consistently changing. So when we understand those things, we go, okay, cool, let's get to the fast track to actually go through our internal growth, so we can actually start to create what we're here to create in this lifetime, which is ultimately what it's all about. So
I want to ask off the back of that, any long-term goals that you want to share with us? Because I'm like, that's just like straight up. I'm like, oh, wonder what are yours? Have you got anything in common? Something I've been questioning myself about a little bit lately. And just recently, a lot of my goals changed. Like, I had these, mindset and goals that I wanted to achieve, and I had it all back to front, or I didn't have it back to front. But just for example, my number one goal now is to live longer.
yeah,
And I was like, why was that never at the forefront of everything that you do? And that stems down in many, I just guess even my relationships with people, the quality of life, the health. I always used to just thought just health and fitness was it, but it's like my environment, the people, like everything. I'm like, no use having all these goals, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. What if you die?
Yep.
I'm like, the ultimate goal should be live longer, because the longer you lived, the more goals you're going to be able to achieve, or I guess the more fulfillment you're being able to achieve. Especially lately, where I'm realizing that I'm living a really nice lifestyle, fulfilling. I'm like, this is really good. I'm really enjoying it. So I'm like, I want to live more of this. So that's been my number one goal now. That was never even on my list, but as of the last couple of 3 months, that's been on my list. That's my number one. So I've been trying to push that through everywhere in my life. So what about yours? Have you got anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, perfect. So in that, very similar to that, just in a different flavor, one of the core things that I'm here to create is what I call a superhuman society. And this is a society where we all live from our unique innate gifts. We have our foundational needs met, so that we can come from our highest needs of growth and contribution to ultimately live this life of deep fulfillment in every area. So with yours, it's about the length of the life. With mine, it's all about the fulfillment within every experience. So if it's in this experience here, then I want to have this fulfillment in this experience. I want to create this deep sense of fulfillment where my needs are being met, your needs are being met, and all of the needs are being met, so that we can actually come from this place of deep sense of growth and contribution, where we can actually just interact and engage. And the way that I talk about this is creating like an infinite loop of growth and contribution and growth and contribution and growth and contribution, because then we can actually interact and engage and create this deep sense of flow and fulfillment between people and in every experience and exercise that we go through day by day. So
I like that. Yeah, I've been doing it lately, where I always stop myself. I'm like, I'm having a human experience right now. It's really good. Having really good. And that's just a common practice. I've been making sure I'm present in the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, something's happening, and I'm like, feel everything. I'm like, everything's going right now. I'm having a human experience.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I'm on a plane. Like, how do you feel? Like, this is great. I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, just being really present with what's going on and how I'm enjoying my lifestyle has made me, I guess gratitude just comes up when I say that. I'm like, oh, I feel good. And
Yeah.
like, sometimes we just get caught up in trying to see what's in front rather than where we are. And yeah, just practicing that lately. So it's been really awesome. That's what was showing up there. I want to go into relationships. How's relationship with Jackie? How's this work helped your relationship?
It's completely changed every aspect of it. Like all of the relationships that I had up until this point, I didn't have the same level of awareness and understanding. So I was doing obviously the best I could at the time with those, and at the same time, I just wasn't really putting it all in at the same time. So with the relationship with Jackie, because I understand exactly what she needs, all of her wounds and all of those different things, I can hold space for her, I can hold her in whatever's going on for her, and we can actually come together in that ability to connect and deepen our relationship by understanding each other on just that deeper level. And that's just created the ultimate capacity for us to come together and become such a powerful partnership together. So
I love it. I want to know, question, what does love mean to you and why?
What does love mean to me and why? So love means to me on a high level, like everything inherently only ever is love. Like everything is an expression of love. And when we come from that place, that creates a capacity for us to have this experience of this unconditionality to it. Because in most instances, we go into this conditionality of what this is love, this tiny little box of what love is, rather than understanding that every experience is only ever an expression of love. And what love is and does, it just seeks more of itself. So when we have an expression of just starting to see the love which is inherently available to us, we can actually start to receive all of this love which is already flowing around us at all points. This speaking is an expression of love. This engagement is an expression of love. And we can actually start to receive that. We start to actually just create this lit up experience for us to be able to create this deepening of this aliveness that is craving to be expressed through us and through other people in every interaction and engagement that we have. So that's kind of how I look at love. And the reason why that is because we filter it through all this conditionality of going, all right, this is what love is, this is the tiny thing, this is who you can love. You can love your intimate partner like this, but you can't confess your love to a brother. You can't confess your love to some random person on the street because that's not socially acceptable. And at the same time, we have this deep sense of connection with each other. We have this deep sense of feeling just in the presence of a person that we can actually start to create access to this deep sense of aliveness, which is already always available to us. So that's my perspective on love.
I love it. That's good. Yeah, and what you're speaking about there is what I like to call the unspoken rules. Like, who made up the rule you can't say, yeah, I love you, bro?
Yeah.
I'm like, who said that? Like, you ain't going to jail if you say that to it. It's like, why are you living in that little box of rules, that cloud rules?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
100%. I have this quote in my book from Terence McKenna. He said, I was looking at myself in the mirror naked, and what I realized was that I was still clothed with societal conditioning. And for me, that's one of the core things that I'm working against, is starting to work against all of these things that we've been conditioned into, that we can't be too much, we can't be a show off, we can't say I love you to a brother, we can't do all of these different things because we're just conditioned into it in society, when the reality is, as humans, we have this infinite potential and capability which is lying dormant within us, which is it's crying to be expressed out into the world. And when we can look at all of those different things of the unspoken things that are coming up for us, the just unspoken agreements that come up, and we start to shift beyond them, then we actually just start to access that deep sense of aliveness and fulfillment and finding connection that is inherently there.
I got to, because I forgot to ask you that start, like, what have you got on at the moment, like coaching and stuff like that, like programs? I want to know where we can find you, because by now I'm pretty sure someone's like, okay, I want to know a bit more about this.
Yeah. There's heaps of different things that I work with people. So there's base programs in terms of the 12-week Becoming Superhuman program to learn all about your epigenetic expression and dive deep into that and learn what your life's purpose is based on your biology. And then beyond that, there's things where I work with people in creating the superhuman certification where they can actually become a coach in all of those different things. And then I work with 7 and 8 figure companies in consulting as well. So there's different things for different people based on where they're at. And for the vision and the mission of creating that superhuman society, it takes this very multi-dimensional approach. So whether that's in relationships and working with 2 partners, then that's creating the capacity to be able to create that superhuman society there, or working with companies. So an example of working with a 7-figure company on the Gold Coast is one of the founders of the company wanted to step out and the other founder wanted to push forward. So we had to find someone to be able to fulfill the gap in between the two of them based on the epigenetic expression to go, okay, this is the perfect person for this role. And as soon as we worked out what that person was, we worked out exactly who they are. And we're like, okay, these are the 4 people that you know in your circle right now that would fit that role. So we can actually start to go into recruitment based on those things and start to expand that out. So when I'm working with people, there's a wide spectrum of where people can work with me to understand exactly what they need in that instance, which is why I just normally say just reach out for a conversation. We'll see exactly where you're at.
I love it. Instagram, what's your Instagram? So people can find it on your Instagram?
Yeah, so so on all social media, it's just at the Cody McAuliffe.
Okay,
so,
and I'll put that in the description below as well so everyone can find you, because I'm sure there'll be someone going, okay, I want to know a bit more. What is, I guess, your mission behind this? Like, is there an end goal, or is there something that you want to achieve out of this? I know you want to create a superhuman society. What does that look like for you? Like, what's that? Like, you're sitting there right now, and let's say we're 25, 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Sitting in a cool old chair like this one somewhere in a nice house or wherever life may have brought you, and you look back at the last 30 years or that what are to come, what do you want to say happened?
Yeah, so whenever I look at goals, I look at the different kind of stages of it. So we have, when I'm talking about creating flow for people, I talk about personal flow, then team flow, then intergenerational flow. So what's going to flow beyond your life. So what we're looking at is between team flow and intergenerational flow in that instance, and going, okay, cool, in 25, 30 years, this is what I want it to look like. And how I want it to look in that time frame is people are actually living the life that they actually love. The good thing about what's happening with technology is all these meaningless jobs are just getting pushed to the side and being outsourced by technology. So there's only going to be meaningful and purpose-filled jobs left. So that's going to mean that there's going to be a shift in society where we can only be doing things that are going to light us up over a period of time, which is going to be extremely exciting. And there will be people who resist that, and there will be people who embrace that and are on the forefront of that. And they're the kind of people that I work with right now and into the future when we start to go, okay, cool, all of these meaningless jobs where we're just doing meaningless tasks just instantly disappear. Now we only get to do things that light us up, that are going to be creative for us, where we can express ourselves through those things, where we can connect with humans in those things and actually enjoy every aspect of that. So in the next 25 to 30 years, based on the increase of technology and that, it's getting to the point where the majority of the world is only living in this deep sense of fulfillment and meaningful, purpose-filled work that they feel alive when they go to.
Love that. I'm like, okay, that's a good answer. And then, like, I want to actually know about this year, because this year's been one of those weird years.
Yeah.
What's it been like for you?
It's been definitely the best year ever.
Yeah? What was it?
So last year I had an experience where I decided to work with a coach in a higher standard than I'd ever worked with before. More money than it was it'd be like about 3.6 times more than I'd ever invested in a program before. And I'd invested a substantial amount of money. And I worked with this coach, and basically what happened is I had this program which was more successful than I'd ever been. I'd made more money than I ever had. I'd transformed more people. I had more testimonials than ever before. And I met with this coach, and I realized that I had to kill that program, because it was still just not enough. It was not having the impact that I wanted. It was the greatest program that I'd created, and still it wasn't living up to its potential. So I had to shift everything. So I destroyed every program that I'd created up until that point and started with a clean slate. And what that created for me was just completely new energy to be able to go, okay, cool, it's going to be really shit to start off with because I'm starting fresh again. And then from there, everything just exploded, and we've 4x'd our business in the last 12 months even through the pandemic. Like we're running lots of events through the start that were all cancelled. I had two events in March which were cancelled, 2 in April which were cancelled, 2 in May, 1 in June which were all cancelled. So it was just completely shifting every aspect of my business again. And because I'd just been through a shift of changing my entire business, I'd restructured it to suit people to be able to get the best results for people possible. And I just did that again throughout this process. And it's just a bit consistent unfolding of that to create that shift, to create the alignment of, all right, well, what's needed now for the 25 to 30 year vision? What could I create right now to be able to grow that? So it's been a massive 12 months. It's been a lot of growth at the same time. It was so many things which have like had to shift as part of it, which has just created this perfect like container of life, being this like, it's almost like a transformational container that we've been in the last 12 months where we just grow just by doing business stuff. Whereas before it's just like, okay, cool, I have to go to this event to be able to go through the transformational experience. I have to go on one of the walks. Whereas life has just been throwing stuff at us that it's just like, okay, cool, you can grow here, you can grow here, you can grow here. And it's been this perfect growth experience.
It's pushed a lot of people into places that they usually would never attend.
Yeah.
And it grew everyone.
Yeah.
It grew everyone. It challenged everyone. And I think it was the right thing. I feel like this year has been a blessing for everyone. Yeah. And if it wasn't, you did it wrong. Not that you did it wrong, but like, you probably didn't learn any lessons from what life was trying to teach you. And I feel like everyone slowing down this year has been really good. Yeah. And there's like, I know a lot of people by this time at the end of the year are getting quite uptight. Yeah. Tension's usually pretty high. And I just feel like it's a little bit of a different vibe right now. Like everyone's a little bit more chilled out. It's a little bit relaxed. The years, everyone's like, you know what, we're going to just finish the year strong. It's all good. It's been a bit of a shake up. But usually by now everyone's just like, they're just like teams are freaking not falling apart, but everyone's arguing. It's like, send me on a holiday. I'm ready to go. Yeah. By Christmas parties, everyone's having a domestic at the Christmas party. I've been to a couple of those. I just don't feel like it's like that this year because everyone had that break in the like mid-year where it's like you can't do anything. Yeah. And I've never had a time in my lifetime where they just said, hey, you just can't do anything. Just stay at home, sit down, do nothing. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is new. Yeah. And that was one thing that I think everyone needed. Yeah. I needed that. Not that I wanted to, but when I did it, I was like, I tried to do it as good as I possibly could because I'm not really good at doing nothing. Yeah. It's not one of my fortes. Yeah. It's probably like yours as well. You probably can't. This is what happened in that 2 weeks that we stayed here. I built this. Yeah. I was like, you know what? I can't go anywhere. I'm going to build a podcast and room at my house. Yeah. So this is what happened. And my housemate at the time come out and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, well, if I can't go anywhere, at least I can still talk to people. Yeah. So, that's kind of where this come from as well. Yeah.
It's been the perfect, opportunity for people just to shift and really question exactly what they're doing. And it's like, well, I need to talk to people, so I'm going to create something. And the core difference between the people who've grown through this experience have been like, okay, cool, well, how can I create a shift in the way that I see things to be able to actually have all the things that I really want? Because some people go through this experience and they go through it and they're like, all right, cool, nothing's working. I'm just going to shut down and like disconnect from everything and disappear. Whereas other people are like, okay, cool. Well, now I get to create a room like this to be able to create my creative self-expression coming out in a different way. And then that creates an amazing community of people who are listening to this right now.
It's been really good. And I know the people listening out here will take immense value out of what you've got to say and they'll be more interested or they'll never, I know so many people on here would have been like, I don't know what an epigenetic thing is. When I said it, I was like, shit, I don't know what that is either. I want to know though. I want to know. But I want to know, like, why work in this space? Why work in this space?
Like for a long time, I realized that I was very much a reluctant leader. So like you'd go to things and you're just like, all right, I'm going to let other people lead. And it's just like, you just see things and you're like, that needs to be done. And I'd just be like, or I'm waiting for someone to get it done. It's just like, well, you've got to go and do it. And I see that there's a gap there in the world. And it's like, well, if you see the gap, then it's your job as well to be the person who's required to start to do the work and create people rallying behind a vision to actually create those shifts. So it's not necessarily something like for a long time I resisted doing a lot of the work that I do because it's just like, well, someone else can do that. And when I started to learn who I was at my core essence, I understood my role within the whole. And we all have a specific role within the whole of what is creating the shift on a societal level, and every single person is required as part of that. And as soon as I actually learnt what that was for me and learnt what my calling was based on my epigenetic expression, everything just shifted for me. So,
I like that. Oh no, do you have like a why, like your why?
Yep.
Like a specific one?
My why is very much just aligned with that superhuman society that I'm looking at creating. That ultimately is my why. When I had that experience in the car with tears streaming down my face, like I didn't understand it at the time, and yet looking back in hindsight, I realized, well, it's all about creating that deep sense of fulfillment for myself and for every person. Every person will have a different flavor of that. And if I can start to create more people doing that, then that's going to light me up, and that becomes why I do everything that I do, to be able to create that big vision of the superhuman society, and also create that being a deep level of fulfillment for each and every person that I come in contact with. So,
Solid, man. I'm loving these answers. And then I like this. I always like to ask people's triggers. Do you have any things that like trigger you, or like pet peeves or hates?
Yeah. So we go through cycles of things, and I. If you had asked me this like 12 months ago, it would be completely different. My biggest trigger at the moment is people who commit to programs and then quit. So when they're going through something, they're like, all right, I'm all in, all these different things, and then just like an hour, 2 hours later, it's just like, oh no, like I changed my mind, all these different things. Just this flippant frame of reference of people. And yeah, it's just interesting because like when you're a coach, what normally happens is, as soon as someone buys into something, it's like, all right, cool, they're committed. I'm going to bring all of my energy to this person to be able to get them to exactly where they're going to go. And as soon as they quit, you almost get this like inner level of like disappointment, because you're there ready to rally all of your energy behind this person to light them up, to actually allow them to create what they create. And it's like one of the core shadows that I talk about with coaches is like when you begin to want it more than the client, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the core things that I've been working through over the last kind of month.
It's kind of one of the things that actually come out of my COVID experience that I fucked up was I signed up to too many things.
Yeah.
I signed up to too many things, and I actually had to apologize to a few people that I knew, because I signed up to their courses and just other people that I knew, a few opportunities at me. And I realized, because obviously COVID happened, and everyone's like, okay, doing so, everything went on sale, there's all these people. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be chilling at home, I can do all these things. Next minute, I knew I was trying to do like 8 different courses at a time. I'm like, shit, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So evidently I'd ended up doing them all shit.
Yep.
I did a few of them, but to what evident, what quality was really poor and bad. So yeah, I had to apologize to people. Hey man, sorry. It wasn't that I wasn't committed. I was committed. But yeah, if I was committed, I wouldn't have, I overcommitted myself to things.
Yeah.
And in doing so, I realized that I just bogged myself down. I didn't do anything great at all. So yeah, that was a big mistake out of my behalf as well that I learned. I was learning languages and all kinds of shit. I was like, I wrote it down on the board. I was looking at what I was trying to do. I was like, I'm like overly busy. I'm like, usually I can handle quite a big workload.
Yeah.
And I wrote it all down on the board. I started writing like what I'm doing, how much, like, and I filled up this whole big whiteboard. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, no wonder I'm burnt out. No wonder I'm not, everything's getting completed to like a small percentage or not a high quality.
Yeah.
For me, like when things are getting hard and I'm, busy, quite a big workload. If I can operate it, in between 70 and 80, that's like percent, like good. That's quite, like that's achievable for me. That's consistent. Yeah. But it's like when it starts getting down and you're completing things at like 50 and 30, that's poor. Like that's no good because you're not getting anything out of it. But, that's a fine line under that like 70, 80 kind of percent. Getting things done is kind of like my bottom line, because otherwise you're just not committing to it. You're not getting the value out of it, and it's just not happening. So you might as well not be doing it at all. If you're like playing in that below those lines, like waste your fucking time.
Yeah, 100%.
So I love that. What else you got for us today? Got anything else? Yeah, you want to speak into anything else today?
I think like what's needed right now is people just really owning like who they really are at their core essence. And part of that is just starting to work through all of the things that are in the way. So we've got all of the societal conditioning that we all play into, and the more that we can start to just own who we are at our core essence, the more that gives people permission to do the same thing. So when you start to be more when people are saying that you're being too much, then that creates permission for people to actually start to go, okay, cool, well, I can actually be who I am at my core essence because he's doing the same thing. And the more individuals that we can start to do that, the more that we can actually start to create that collective shift, the more that we can start to have teams of people creating this shift and this experience of being lit up in a completely different way, which is ultimately what it's all about. So
I love that you said that, because one of the things I always say is own who you are, but know who you are.
Yeah.
Can't own if you don't know it.
Exactly.
And everyone's like, yeah, I own who I am, but I'm like, you don't really actually know who you are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you hide, and you're not giving us all of you.
Yeah.
So it's like, own who you are, but know who you are at the same time. Last couple of questions I got for you, because we're on the hour. Actually, I'm pretty sure we're busting up the hour. It goes so quick when you're sitting here in the Thunderdome. It goes super quick.
Yeah.
If you had one wish, let's say I'm not Magic Man, but I could give you one wish to change anything in this world, what would it be? And why?
I think it would just be the belief that like you're gonna get through it regardless of what's going on. Like, it wouldn't change anything on a societal level because I would have the perception and the belief that it's in the perfect place for where it needs to be right now, and it's going to evolve over a period of time based on the input that we put into it. And I think the core thing would be just that belief in, okay, cool, we're going to get through this, whatever it is, and we're in the perfect divine position for where we need to be at an individual and a humanity level as part of it. So if we had that understanding and that knowing deep within us that it's all going to work out, then we would automatically just start to go with it so much more rather than fighting against all of these different things, because the natural tendency is to go and fight against all of the different components of things. So like, even when I'm talking about what my vision is, I'm talking about what I'm standing for, whereas so many people are still trying to stand against something, and it creates this oppositional energy, which means that more comes into fruition. So my wish is just that we have the belief and the knowing that ultimately it's where it needs to be, and it's going to unfold perfectly into what we're here to create for the ultimate growth opportunity for us as individuals and as humanity.
Bang, I love that. That's a good answer, bro. That's a deep answer. It's a deep answer, but a good answer. My last question is, like, have you got a quote or phrase or word of wisdom, or like, is there something that anchors you and keeps you centered? Like, is it a phrase, a saying, or is it a practice? What would that be?
Yeah, there's different ones in different contexts. I'll give you two. One of the core ones is that which you disown owns you, which relates back to people putting on that act unknowingly in a lot of instances, because they're trying to hide things. They're trying to put on this act to trying to be seen in a specific way. So that which you disown owns you. That's one of those. And then something that's been very much in my frame of reference over the last few weeks is you'll either be a product of your environment or your environment will be a product of you. And when you can consciously start to create your environment, then that's when you start to create that life that you really want to create, rather than just being at the effect of your environment. So there's two for you.
That is two solid ones. And that last one, you're a product of your environment, or you can create the environment of what?
You can be a product of your environment, or your environment can be a product of you.
Yeah, I like that one. I've been starting playing that lane before. I'm like, well, you know what? I can create the culture here.
Yeah.
I'm like really starting looking, like sometimes I catch myself looking out and I'm like, oh, hold on. I don't know, I can change this. I'm like, these people around here, I'm like, look, we can like create something new.
Yeah.
And it can be the way I want it to look.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts to get really fun. So I love that. Well, guess what? That's going to be a podcast for today, brother. That was awesome. Anything else? Actually, courses, what have you got? The coaching programs, drop it. What have you got in the works at the moment?
Yeah, just the best thing to do would just to be reach out to me on Facebook, and Jackie will get back to you because she looks after all my messages, just to see what program would be a good fit. Most likely the starting point for most people is the 12-week Becoming Superhuman program. So that's the best place to start.
Yeah. And I'll put all the descriptions and links for everything like that in below. But other than that, Cody, brother, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
For your time today. Everyone out there, if you could leave a review, listen to us on Spotify, podcasts, everywhere. Rate us. But other than that, much love and respect. See you on the next one. Peace, brother.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for putting this together.
No
Appreciate anyone who puts any of these things together. I know how much time, energy, and effort goes into it. So.
Oh man, I'm glad you came on. Thanks for reaching out as well. And I really love to. I want to do this one again in a couple of months. Because I saved a few questions.
Yeah.
And I got a few things as well because I'm like, I guess we lead into some other stuff and go a little bit deeper as well.
Sounds good. It's my favorite.
Peace.